Buying an e-mountain bike can be a daunting task, but today I'm going to take you through some main things to consider to help you make the right move. Now, where you ride, or at least where you might ride in the future, is the first consideration you need to make, because that's going to dictate what type of bike is best suited for the job. Now, if you've got gentle fire roads such as this, a hub drive bike, a hardtail hub drive, will probably do the job and it'll cost you less than £1,000. Now, e-mountain bikes with mid-drive motors, on the other hand, start at around £1,500. And there's a reason that they're more expensive than hub drives, and that's because they're more suited to off-road riding and are much more advanced. Now, a bike such as this, the Hi-Bike Hard 7 1.0, comes in at about £1,900, but you can also get other bikes on the market such as the Cube Acid, which start at around £16.99. Time then for a bit of adventure. I wasn't joking earlier when I said where you might ride your e-mountain bike. I really mean this, because the opportunities for adventure on an e-mountain bike you might find very different to what you would do on a non-e-mountain bike. So I highly recommend that you go for a mid-drive motor, because it'll give you much more options. So once you have chosen your mid-drive e-mountain bike, take the monumental hint there. Bear in mind that a £2,000 bike and a £10,000 bike with exactly the same motor will provide you the same level of assistance. So in other words, you'll quite likely be climbing that hill in exactly the same time. Now, when we're talking about the price variations between e-mountain bikes, a lot of that time the difference is simply down to the material being used. And also, don't take it for granted that you are going to get an increase in performance because you spend more money on different components. However, I will say that one component which will give you an edge is going to be the suspension, because that's going to give you more comfort, more control, and a smoother ride. Now, if I was to make a generalization about prices, I would say you would get a very big performance difference between £500 and £1,500. A significant one between £1,500 and £4,000, and then from there upwards, just some fine detail. But if you want to get a smooth ride off-road, you need to go for a full suspension bike, and they start from around £2,000. These then are the kind of tracks you'll inevitably get to on an e-mountain bike. Obviously, one of the questions you're going to be asking is, what motor and battery combination do I use? Well, there's many on the market, from Bosch to Bose, Shimano, Yamaha, Panasonic and TQ. And whilst they all differ in their power outputs and their individual traits, they're pretty much the same. However, what you might need to consider is there are some lower power e-mountain bikes on the market, the Specialized Turbo Lever SL, and also the Lapierre Ease SC. Now, they have lower torque, but what you need to bear in mind, they also draw less from the battery. The battery capacities on e-bikes range from about 400 watt hours up to 700 or more. Now, if you want to go further, I recommend you get a higher capacity battery. But if you're a lighter rider, say 70 kilos or less, then you can easily get away with a lower capacity battery. And remember, you can always carry a spare. Now, make sure to get the right size e-mountain bike. Now, all brands come with a range of sizing from extra small up to extra large, and they actually do differ in their sizing. So get advice, look at the information on the websites. But one thing's for sure, do not buy a bike that is the wrong size for you, because it will be hideously uncomfortable. Wow, the places you get to on e-mountain bikes is immense. But one of the things I get asked quite frequently is, what about your mates? What about peer pressure? Well, all I can say is simply do not worry about it. You can still go out with your mates on their non-e-bikes, you ride an eco, and you'll all get on a treat. But one thing to consider maybe though is, what about you as an influencer? And possibly you could be looking at buying 2 bikes and not 1. Of course, one key thing we've not yet spoken about is how you're going to buy this e-mountain bike of yours. Well, I think there's three main ways. The first one is a local bike shop where you can maybe haggle over a deal. The second one is maybe a chain store. You're going to get more choice there and maybe a lesser price, but that's something you're going to work out. And then the third option is, of course, buying direct sales where the bikes are slightly less expensive, but obviously that's one brand and you're going to be looking at the different models in their e-bike range. So lots to think about. Butler's locked the gate. Now, I might joke, but it's a serious consideration because after all, if you live on the 6th floor in the middle of a city, then owning a slightly heavy e-mountain bike is not really that practical. So in that situation, you need to certainly look at having an e-bike which has got a detachable battery so you can take it upstairs and charge it and lock your e-bike in a safe place on the ground floor. Wow, look at that. And those are the type of views you can expect to find on your e-mountain bike adventure. And what you'll tend to do is you'll get to the top of the hill and you'll go, wow, look at that hill over there. And I guarantee you'll cycle over and explore that one. Now, just a few things to close. What about servicing? Well, the thing with e-mountain bikes is the tires, the gears, the brakes, and the suspension will need servicing, whereas it's quite likely that the motor and the battery will not. However, to give you a rough idea, if something does go wrong with your motor, Specialized have a 3 to 5 day turnaround. Bosch is about 5 to 10, and Shimano up to 10 days to get your motor replaced. So it's actually not too dramatic, and yeah, like I said, it's lower maintenance actually, or it's as low maintenance as a normal mountain bike. However, you probably will need to change things such as the chain and the gear a little bit more frequently, as well as the brake pads. That's it. Quick guidelines about buying your first e-mountain bike. Let us know your thoughts, follow us on social media, and we'll see you in the hills.